Welcome to the American Roadrunner Podcast.
Yep, it's that time again. Glad y'all could join us here today on this, the American Roadrunner Podcast. Here we share stories from the road on our two-wheeled motorcycle machines. All tales of spills, thrills, and chills. All the good, bad, and ugly stories from the open road. I'm your host, Bob Marshall.
And I'm your host, Brian Phillipson.
Glad you could join us here today. We got some exciting things to chat about.
Yes, we do. You know what? We don't have a guest today, but we don't need one because we have you, Bob. You are the guest of honor for your own podcast.
In that case, I'm the guest today, Bob Marshall.
And,
That's
you
a
know,
good one.
we decided to do it this way today because, Bob, you just came back from a really cool event.
Yeah, they let me back in the country. I was hanging out in Old Mexico all weekend for about 4 days, so it was pretty, 4 days counts as a weekend in Mexico, I reckon. So, yeah, we just made it back. Had a good time.
So what was the event called?
The event known as the El Diablo Run. This was EDR 2019 hashtag. It was, as usual, a very good time. This is my third one I've been to. It's been happening for a while. I reckon this was the 10th one they put on, but it's every other year. It used to kind of be a different format where they'd hop around Mexico, usually on chop machines. Now it's just kind of meets up in one place known as Old San Felipe.
San Felipe. Is that in Baja, California?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's on the top of the Baja Peninsula there. Probably just 50 miles south from the top of the
I'd say were you close to the beach, but I think everywhere is close to the beach in Baja, right?
Yeah, we're right on
Surrounded
the
by
beach the whole time. Yeah. There's a few good camps there, and they've got these popolas that they put up, and so everybody kind of parks their scoots under it and then sleeps up in them. And I reckon most of the time it's RV camping, but we kind of took it all over with our motorcycles,
And you
downtown, everything else. Yeah, we had a
Did
really
some
good time.
motorcycle camping, huh?
Well, not me directly. I was actually graced with the opportunity to hang out in a room. So that was pretty nice. I was about, 2 blocks from everything, all the happenings. But the room had a wonderful ocean view. It's really exciting when you don't have to go very far and you can still watch the sunrise on the ocean.
Cool.
As opposed to us over here, we're used to watching the sunset. So that sun would come blaring through the room, man, at 5:45 or whatever it was. Remind you that you're alive. So that, it was a good time. But yeah, most people were camping out, hanging out, having a good time. I took my old rigid Cop Chop number 27 down there. It kind of survived, kind of didn't, broke a few things. Everybody else kind of broke a few things. We had a few snaggles that got in the way, but at the end of the day, everybody had a really good time. Nobody died, so that's what I'm excited about.
That's good. So San Felipe, good weather.
Oh, yeah.
You took the cop bike. Why'd you pick the cop bike?
Well, you got to have fun and laugh. And if you're going to be on old Mexican roads, you might as well be on a rigid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the way to enjoy life. My back's pretty mad at me, and my bike's pretty mad at me. Everything's kind of mad at me. Honestly, I broke a few things. We had a nice race out in the dirt field there, across from the camp that most people are at. And I got real excited and participated and crashed the first time in the sand pit, and that really sucked. But I kind of got it back up and got it going. And then I crashed the second time in the sand pit. And my exhaust decided to, my exhaust extend pipe at the end decided to come up and come off. And then all the gas fell out of my carburetors because the bike didn't just tip over. The bike was more than 90 degrees over. So it was quite hellacious. The funny thing was, is I ran out there and tried to just, as soon as I fell off, I stood up and tried to just pick it up like it was a Honda Rebel. It didn't work.
No.
So luckily for me, a few people kind of ran over and helped me pick it up. And then, it took me, a good 15 or 20 seconds to get it started again. because once the carbs are out of fuel, it's not going to want to start.
Yeah.
And I mean, probably half a gallon poured out of the motorcycle.
Shit.
From all edges.
And you have the gas tank at the front of your motorcycle too. I was looking at the pictures
Right.
on Instagram. You've got this. You know what it reminds me of is, you see those pictures of the Saint Bernard rescue dogs with a little barrel of whiskey underneath their neck. That's what it reminded me of when I looked at your motorcycle. It's got this big silver keg at the front underneath the headlight.
No, you're right, and that's a very different. There's another guy in Japan who messaged me once and said, "Hey, I saw you do this, so I'm doing the same thing." But other than that, nobody else does it. And I'll tell you the logistics are pretty simple. I took off 34 pounds of fairing off that. It was an original Kawasaki moto bike, so it had the big fairing on the front. So I took off 34 pounds of fairing, and I think I added 31 pounds of gasoline and gas tank. I mean,
so it didn't change the weight all that much or
no,
how it handles? Okay.
No, exactly. It all kind of added up. The downfall is, yes, when the gas tank's half full or the gas tank's mostly full, it will shake, and I'll sit there at a stoplight, and it'll shake a little to the left and shake a little to the right. I gotta be aware of it. All of a sudden, there's another acting on my handlebars and.
Handlebars.
Yeah.
What happened to your handlebars? I heard something about that.
The handlebars.
That's more towards the end. So we'll wait on that.
May they rest in peace.
So the race, was it called the El Diablo Run or was it called something else?
Oh yeah, we were just having some good race games out there in the big dirt lot. And
how many laps was it?
It was 4 laps, 4.5 technically. We'd start up on the street, and that was funny because where we were starting, the locals were really pissed off that we closed this little side road down. And boy, right before the race, man, these locals got out and got in my face, and they thought for sure it was totally my fault that the road was closed and they weren't having it. But you got 50 bikes sitting up there and they're all getting in line. Like, why?
You're the big guy.
Yeah, they would
always pick the fight with the big guy.
Oh yeah. And lucky for me, there was another guy there who was assisting with the race, and he spoke Spanish, so he was able to calm these guys down. But I thought, great, I'm running 3 seconds late to get to the race, and I'm trying to put my safety gear on, and these guys are just screaming at me. But that's Mexico for you.
So I'm trying to imagine this. So you guys just mobbed up in San Felipe, found a street, shut it down, and said, hey, we're going to race here?
We're going to start the race here. We're going to go down this little dirt hill, and this 1 or 2 acres of blank field here covered in rocks, nails, old building debris, old tires. We're going to use that and call it a race course. Syringes, a little to the left, a little to the right.
Wow.
And, I ate shit twice. There's a lot of good video about it. The old bike barn, that guy did a whole video of me trying to put my exhaust back together because the whole thing was finagled, and I was dragging it, and I could feel the bike just running like crap. Once I got it going again, and people are pointing and yelling and screaming, and you just get back on, keep going, have a damn good time. There were 4 people in that race. I don't know if I came in 3rd or 4th. And that's a funny thing when you're racing. You really don't know how you're doing because you're so busy concentrating on making sure you're looking ahead, making sure the clutch is where the gas, making sure everything's right. You really forget your placement in the race. You forget you don't pay attention to other people like you do when you're spectating on the race. When you're spectating on the race, things are good. But when you're actually in the race, you get I don't know how other people are, but I get so occupied on, oh God, please don't let me hit those tires. How do I get around the sand pit this time? How did I do it last time? Anyways, and the second time I fell, the guy in front of me had crashed in the sand pit, and so I was trying to go around him, and that's when I caught it just right again and ate crap.
Yeah.
I was going pretty fast the second time, actually. My shoulder really hurt because I hit the dirt hard right in front of like a net and all my cheering section. They're all right there witnessing all this.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, it was.
They could feel the gut punch.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
So it was like a short track. Like would it be a quarter mile? So basically people might lap each other, and that's why you could never tell who was winning or who wasn't.
Exactly.
It was like one person keeping track of everybody.
Well, and there was one guy there I got to meet, and him and I had been messaging a bit back and forth on Instagram. He knew who I was, and I knew who he was, and boy, this guy must have fallen 4 or 5 times on his Sportster. But the Sportster kept running, where my KZ the last time once all the fuel fell out of the carb, it wasn't having it. It just wouldn't.
Need to get that guy some training wheels for his bike.
Yeah, but he got up and kept going. But I remember, gosh, probably 3 times I had to avoid not running him over. I had to slam on the brake, get the rear end out from underneath me, turn left and go right, whatever.
Was his name Hazard?
His name was what was his name? Dirty Joe. He's from Phoenix.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but he was having a good time, man. He really rocked it.
So he's Dirty Joe because he was always in the dirt.
Amen.
And so you closed down the street. The Policia didn't have any problems with that. They weren't like,
I don't know how they did it.
Americano locos.
Yeah, the locals were not happy. The locals were not happy about that at all. So they tried to put a cone there. Then the military came through.
Whoa.
And I made the mistake of moving the cone for the military. Then I put the cone back. Then there's a line of, there's 50 bikes sitting there. I don't know. Things are just done differently in Mexico, I reckon. So
the military showed up. Were they wearing like the riot gear and everything?
Oh yeah,
come on the big military truck.
Yeah. And there was a guy. There was just one guy, and I think it said naval police or something. But yeah, there's a guy standing up in the back of the truck with a big old machine gun in his hand. So I moved the cone for him. I figured that was appropriate.
Yeah.
But then once the other people wanted to get by, they saw me move the cone back. Then all of a sudden, I'm the guy in charge of the cone, and I was trying to get ready to race. So yeah,
you're the cone man.
Yeah, it was a little sideways, but we had a good time. No one died.
Nope, not yet. Anyways, I mean, people are still struggling with the food poisoning, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, there was half a day, and I think I had to relate it back to the La Leche that they gave me at this great little diner in downtown for my coffee. And it looked cold. It felt cold. The small serving did. Anyways, I thought it would be okay to drink, but apparently not. It shut me down for half a day. Major headache and all the other stuff that goes with that. And I was fortunate enough that everyone kind of thought ahead and brought Pepto and Imodium AD, and I just took a few swigs of all that, and then 10 minutes later I was out racing. So I was just hoping not to shit my pants while I was racing.
You come to the start line, they're like, and now racing number 27, Botulism Bob.
Exactly. Exactly. I kept it on the down low. I was pretty embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
I reckon a lot of people did that.
And that's why, as Kelsey says, you always bring a couple pairs of thongs, right?
Exactly.
Extra underwear.
Yeah, exactly. And that was... I know the next day we hit the beach, and I couldn't find my shorts in the room to save my life. So, as usual, Annette found them after the fact, like, no, your shorts are right here. But
of course you knew where they were.
Yeah, I was hanging out on the beach with my pants all rolled up and my boots on, just having a good time. But, everybody's jumping in the water. I was just sitting there acting like I was trying to read a book. But
And I saw some of the pictures of you racing. You were wearing coveralls, right? Like a...
Oh, yeah, my regular coveralls that I like to wear on the road. They're real convenient. They've got a nice little layer on the knees and almost like shin guards. So they work real well. So, yeah, I just threw those back on to race.
Kind of difficult to wear those when you are having stomach issues, right?
Oh, yeah, because it takes a minute, yeah.
You got to take all your clothes off just to sit down on the toilet when you're wearing coveralls.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely.
Get naked just to take a shit.
It's definitely an experience. But racing cross country, it works pretty well.
Yeah.
Just a quick thanks to one of our sponsors and friends, one Mr. Curtis Morgan with Ride 1K in a Day. He's getting the app put out. Check him out on the Instagram, Ride 1K in a Day. Challenge yourself, Ride 1K in a Day.
So the El Diablo Run, I kept on thinking you were saying El Diablo Rum. And I was like, I've never heard of that alcohol before.
That'd be a good one. There was a guy who took a picture of me with my foot up on the back, all looking like a captain. But, it's San Felipe, so you got to be a little ridiculous.
Yeah, so how many people were there for the entire event?
Oh, God, several thousand.
Yeah?
I mean, there were several hundred people watching this makeshift race having a good time. I mean, it was all good games. And I think that was the best part. People like to watch the crashes, and I provided some good entertainment for that.
Now, how many people...
I didn't even qualify,
How many people go to that as compared to something like Sturgis?
Yeah, a lot less people run down to Mexico, and I think that's the exciting part when you run into people that you've known for a long time, or you meet people who've come from I met one guy, Rob Boyce. He was great because he knew all about the Stampede, so he was real excited to hang out with myself and fellow Stampeders. And he came all the way in from New York.
Wow.
Just spent a few days and cruised over, and he was just a great guy and had a lot of questions, of course, and he was really excited to be there. And then there's, older people you've known forever that you've seen at other runs, but they were just afraid to hop into Mexico, and then all of a sudden they're there. And we were real lucky. A lot of the Stampede family was there.
Any friends of the podcast?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like anybody we've had on the podcast?
Yeah, of course, Annette
was there.
Earth with a D was
Earth
there.
with a D, yep. She was my riding partner and my bunking buddy, so that worked out pretty well. Jer was there, of course. Jer's usually there. But
he's from what episode was he on?
Oh, I don't remember. He's Jer. Everyone can remember Crazy Jer. Yeah, he was one of the first few ones. We got to have him back on, actually. We'll catch up with him. And, those got Jer's in Colorado. Mike Shoup, fellow Stampeder, he's up in northern New Mexico or central New Mexico. Nomad Charlie, the guy who was kind enough to kind of put the Stampede on for us back in the day, he was there. There was all sorts of Jer's brother was there, Willie, and that guy's just awesome as can be. We had a really good time. We had a really good freaking turnout as far as local people who like to race and people who've done the Stampede. Velarde Gonzalez, he was there. Man, that guy's awesome. I actually ride, and these are all dear friends of mine that I've done some crazy stuff for. Jer actually messaged me the day before we were leaving, and my good friend Ray, who came in second the last year of the race, and he ran the last few Stampedes, and he'd always come in fourth, second, third. I mean, the guy's just an animal. You wouldn't believe it by looking at him, but he came into town, and we were going to hop down together. It was great. And I got this message from Jer going, hey, I blew off a piece of my tire, because these guys were probably doing 120 trying to get down through Mexico. And he goes, do you have another 18-inch tire? It's a 120 by 90. It just happens to be the tire that fits on all the KZs, and that's what he needed.
Can I borrow your spare?
Yeah, exactly. So I went, yeah, I got a brand new one right here. It's on a rim, but Ray and I spent 20 minutes and got it off the rim, and I strapped it to the side of the Skoot and cruised down, and we stopped a few times on the way down. People would be like, Bob, why the hell do you have a spare tire on, And I'd tell them Jer, and they'd go, oh, yeah, I saw that post. Now it all makes sense. You're bringing Jer a spare tire. So as soon as I even got there, Jer jumped on the back with his rim and tire. So we had his rim and tire on one cage on the back of the cop chop, and then the new tire. And we hop into town, and we found a tire guy, and he did it up. That way we didn't have to do it ourselves, and it was really funny. Jared's sitting there helping the guy. We're all helping the guy, and this is all on the Instagram. But
so for a little bit, you had a four-wheeled cop chop.
It was pretty ridiculous looking, and I had Jared on the back, so it looked really.
That just seals the
deal.
deal.
Just rode by everybody. Nothing going on here. This isn't fishy, I promise. Oh my God! It was nuts.
Pictures or it didn't happen.
Yeah, well.
Hopefully there's no pictures out there.
No, there's a bit of video I shot, actually. We're hopping through San Felipe, and I turned on the video. This is pretty normal to ride around with Jer on the back. Last EDR was his brother Willie. He was on the back of my cop chop. So, there's always some squirreliness for some reason. But luckily, the cop chop's been extended so much that there's a good 12 inches between the person in front and the person in back. So there's no butts to nuts. Just saying. So it works out pretty well. So we got that new, So we got that new tire put on, got it back on his bike. He's good to go. Tire's almost brand new, and he's running it. Of course, I got a KZ rim sitting in the back with no tire on it, but we'll figure that shit out later. That's just what friends do for each other.
Among other things. Yeah. Check out our friend Jake with the Flying Dutchman Co. with all your motorcycle and customization needs. That's the Flying Dutchman Co. You can find him on Instagram and YouTube at the Flying Dutchman Co.
Yeah, we had a good time. And at one point, Danger Dan, of course, is down there. Had a killer time with him as usual. some good meals, some good chats. At one point, him and Velarde were busy giving us good shows of some wheelie contests out on the drag there. So whatever, man. It's freaking EDR. Good times.
Well, Bob, I'm glad you made it back safely. As the guests at home can probably hear, you're still kind of tired, yawning a little bit. But I wanted to interview you before, you forgot some of the stuff that happened.
I forgot everything. Listen, there's no stuff. If you want to experience San Felipe, Mexico, with myself and a few hundred, maybe even a few thousand of my closest dirty backer friends, you got to cruise down there.
Yeah, make some memories.
Make some memories, because the whole town gets set up for it. They all have banners and posters all over the place.
It's good business.
Well, and that's a funny part too, because they try to spell it in English, or they try to, and the spelling's just all wrong. It drives me nuts. It was welcome El Diablo-ers. I mean, just the funniest.
Isn't El Diablo like a Spanish?
Yeah, the devil, the devil's run. That was El Diablo, the devil. So, but downtown was it's always fun. They really get set up, and you got to be careful. I mean, for those people who haven't traveled in Mexico, people are always talking to people. People are always trying to sell you something. You can be in the middle of a conversation. People walk up and they want money because they have a busted hand and they're not on medical, or maybe
little kids trying to sell chiclets.
Everybody. I don't think any kids tried to sell me chiclets. Yeah. No, everyone's walking around trying to sell something. The big service this year seemed to be like corn rolling people's hair. Dan's hair was just all in these great freaking tight, gorgeous looking corn rolls. He's supposed to cruise by Wednesday, so he'll probably still have them.
Oh wow! So that's not just a Jamaica thing when you travel there. Now it's San Felipe. They braid your hair.
Oh yeah, the henna tattoos and just sunglasses. You name it, man. They had it, but some of their prices aren't very good at the time. When you travel in Mexico, you got to know this time the peso was 18 to $1. So it's 18 pesos per US dollar. So everything was a little off, and it just fell. It used to be 20 to 1. So if you ask someone, they'd say, "Oh, this is 35 pesos." Mm-hmm. And you'd go, "Okay, well, here's $2, keep the change." And they're thinking, well, no, or here's $1.50, keep the change. Well, no, you still owe me, so you'd have to figure it out quite quick. So you just kind of learn. But I'm not. I know there was at breakfast one time, she told me, it's 109 pesos. And so I went to pay about $5, plus tip. So I went to give her $7 and I accidentally gave her 11. And I realized that as I was handing to her and she walked away, and I went, oh, like 10 minutes later, I was like, oh man, I gave her whatever.
You just made her day.
I'm sure I made her day, and I'm sure it's fine. What are you going to do? It's just a few dollars. And that was for 2 breakfasts, coffees, whatever. It's
and
$5.
She will never look down on bikers again.
Well, I could imagine not. I mean, we were throwing money all over the place. There's just so many things to throw money at. Yeah, my favorite were the churros that they made right there on the street. And one night it was last night, I went running down just to grab some churros before they closed it down.
Did they have any of that corn on the cob? And
no corn on the cob this year. No.
So churros, that was the way to go.
Well, and downtown's real busy, and you can only go one way. So there's no two-way. You got to go with the one way. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, someone jumped on my back. And I thought, what the? And I look, and there's Beulah May,
Beulah.
From Girl on a Moto podcast.
She was great at the hippie killer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she was just running through the streets of San Felipe and jumped on the back of my bike. She goes, "Where are we going?" I go, "Well, you're going to be disappointed. We're just going around the corner to get Net and I some of these churros,
Man. Hey, worse people can jump on the back of your bike.
No, you're right. I got pretty lucky. You're right. And she goes, "Oh, can you give me a ride back to camp?" Because the camp's like a mile, where all the hotel rooms are from downtown. It's like a mile north, but it's hard to get between there and there because there's a lot of stop signs, a lot of dirt. Well, at one point we were all following Jer, and I don't know what happened, man. He led us down this dirt road. Everything fell off our motorcycles. By the time we got there, we all kicked his ass. Like, you led us the wrong way. A dog bit Velarde along the
What?
I mean, it was like the worst ride ever, and that was a joke Mike Shoup was making, that, man, Jared just ruined Baja for us. I mean, not just San Felipe, but all of Baja Peninsula. It was good fun, man. we had a good time.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad you came back in one piece. Didn't get hassled too much by policia or anything.
No. At one point, yeah.
Other than the military guys going by on the cone.
Yeah, boy, those guys look intimidating. Honestly, they're all pretty younger guys, I reckon.
Yeah.
But,
did any of them have a cop chop like yours?
Well, and that was at one point the policia. We were cruising through downtown nice and slow, and this guy's riding around on a nice little Honda. Maybe it's a 125 quad, just a tiny little quad. He's this big old federale dude, And he pulls up next to us, and that says, "Oh, you want to race? Let's race." And I'm like, don't ask what. He goes, "No, I want to trade. But leave you on the back."
He wanted to race for pinks and get the girl.
Exactly.
Huh?
That's what he was excited about. It is nice to hop around without a helmet on too. Most of the time.
Oh, really? What other kind of laws are different in Mexico than here in California?
I think the biggest one is alto. Stop. The stop signs, those are just a suggestion. People do not have to stop.
People just
speed limits.
So it's not even a California stop. They just roll through them.
They just roll through and you're really, you could have a complete dick in the mesh of people, but you're just, okay, you go, okay, then I'll go. Oh, that person's go ahead and cross. There's no, it's not the rigid, strict enforcement that we have here. Oh crap, I'll be ticketed there, and everyone's friends. With the policia. A few times, bikes were parked up on the sidewalk maybe. So we'd be sitting there having dinner or lunch somewhere, and this guy would hop in. Hey, park the motorcycle on the sidewalk, and he's speaking in Spanish. So someone would translate for us. Somebody's bike's parked on the sidewalk. You need to move it. He wasn't out writing tickets. He was just, if you could, do us a favor and move it, that'd be great. No problemo, So yeah, those guys are real cool, and everybody seems to be real friendly, with the policia. So
that's good. Yeah, no shakedowns going on. I guess you'd have to be a blonde surfer kid who looks like you have a rich uncle. For them to shake you down for money.
Yeah.
They see the bikers and they're like, these guys don't have any money. We're not going to shake them down.
Well, last time I went through there, San Felipe is 180 kilometers or whatever, 130 miles maybe from the border, but you got to get through. Calexico's on the U.S. side, then you go into Mexicali.
Right.
Well, last EDR I was going through Mexicali, and there's this roundabout you got to hit because the route down there is 5. And you cannot stay on Route 5 in Mexicali. You got to hit this roundabout, and hopefully you get in the right direction to go out back to the U.S. border. You probably won't. Well, last time I was down there, somehow I didn't, and I got pulled over for running a light. And the policia was real nice. He's in this great little Ford Fiesta, very official looking, and he got a piece of paper, and because I didn't speak Spanish, and he drew a map of what I did and what I did wrong, and I should follow him to the police station and pay the $45 fine. Okay, so maybe I could take care of that right here right now. Maybe I can pay you and you'll pay the fine for me. Oh yeah, sure, I could do that. Okay, so and they make it $45, so it's kind of I reckon they're thinking you'll just give them $3.20 because they're not going to have change.
Right.
But yeah, this guy, that's my big rule. I always carry just a ton of change. I mean, I had $40 in ones and $80 in fives and a few 20s, but it was mostly just ones and fives. And so yeah, I just paid him right there, and he said, "Okay, have a good day, have fun, nice motorcycle."
So a very nice shakedown.
Oh yeah, you just got to be
very gentlemanly.
As with everything, you got to be nice, and nice of him to pay the ticket for me. But I'll tell you what, in any other state, that ticket would have been $200-300. They would have sent it to me in the mail,
and it's better than going to a Mexican prison. I can tell you that much.
Oh, you've been to a Mexican prison?
No, but I've seen them on TV. I have.
Well, I've seen U.S. prisons, and I'm not excited to be in anything that looks, smells, or says prison on it. So
right.
No thanks. $45, cheap insurance. That's just how the culture is, and the fact that I'm on a rigid, cross-country racing machine has nothing to do with it. It just, and everywhere you go, sometimes people have vendettas against people who ride motorcycles, so they're cutting you off, or they're
really,
running India. Yeah, it's.
You mentioned insurance. You have to get different insurance when you go over the border, right?
Well, I've heard you're supposed to, but I've never done that.
Okay.
I've heard it's a big sham. If you're in an accident in Mexico, you're right. You got to make a deal right there. So I reckon I'd just be there making a deal. I always carry a few extra dollars on my person somewhere that's not in my wallet.
Yeah, and if that doesn't work, you just give them the gold out of your teeth, the diamonds that you have. And stuff.
I reckon you could. Man, I wish I had diamond in my teeth. That'd be kind of cool. Although I'd probably forget to brush it and look pretty bad after a while. No, it's just a different way of doing business and doing life. And Mexicali there is a little rough to get through. A lot of stop signs, stop lights. People are honking and screaming, and they just don't have the public works systems like we do either. So the streets are dirtier. One of the roads we had to take in San Felipe there was the main fish processing. All the fishing boats go in and out right there.
Oh, it probably smelled like hell.
Oh, it smelled like hell. Yeah, but it is what we had a great ride back. Ran into Rich, and that's the funny thing is that there's thousands of motorcyclists there, so you're not there by yourself. I mean, it's you and several thousand of your dirtiest biker friends, so everybody's helping each other out. Somebody's missing a part. I mean, me bringing in Jared tire is not a big deal. I know my buddy Timmy from Wichita, Kansas, one Mr. Skidmore. He's a good friend. Him and his girlfriend Jacqueline, Timmy ended up blowing a belt, and somebody else had a belt, but they didn't have a way to prop the bike up to change the drive belt. So this one guy had taken a sofa and put it on the back of his Harley, his Sportster.
A sofa on the back of a Harley?
Oh, yeah. And it was like it was a chair, a sofa chair. What do you call that?
Like a recliner or a lazy boy?
Lazy boy. And I think he wrote on it Sofa King Choppers or something. But at this point, the darn thing had gotten all busted up, so they laid it on the ground, and they put Timmy's back on top of that so they could trade the it's just, and they were right in downtown San Felipe. I mean, it was a really good time. So things are just a little different down there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you had a good time.
And just a quick shout out to one of our Riverside locals, Speed King Cycles. Steve and Amy can hook you up with all your custom needs for Harleys and beyond. Speed King Cycles here in Riverside. I hear they might also be carrying one acclaimed book, American Roadrunner. Check them out, Riverside, Speed King Cycles.
So, Bob, when you were there in San Felipe for the El Diablo Run, did you meet any fans, anybody who's read your book, anybody who listens to podcasts who you'd never met before?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty fortunate. I mean, anybody who's ran the Stampede, they're all kind of fans of the Stampede. And, I need to reiterate a very true statement. That is, I'm just one of the people who raced in the Stampede. There's handfuls and handfuls of people who are way more badass about it than I am.
You just wrote about it.
I just wrote about it as a self-healing exercise and got to, get my story out. This is my story, and that's the benefit of our website. This is my story. Feel free to share your story with me. And originally, that's what turned me on to the Stampede was Nomad Charlie's writing, in the magazine about the Stampede and all the cool squirrely stuff you do. How do you take super cool, which is chopper, stripped down motorcycle, and make it even more super cool and push it all the way across country? And that's the joke. We were all sitting around at one point, and I said, can you imagine how much money we've spent, Charlie, chasing you around this country, just trying to keep up with y'all, and he has such a great attitude. He's such a good friend. We're going to have him on the podcast soon enough. I was talking to him about it.
Good.
But yeah, man, I hung out with Dan. He's a huge fan of our podcast and your NPR voice, as he says. He really enjoys that. But I did get to have some good talks with some good people. I think it was last night. I was getting ready to leave the camp there, and my friend Stacy Wilt, she was just kicking it in her hammock. So her and I chatted for half an hour about what she's been up to, what I've been up to. She really wants to be on the podcast, but she's absolutely insistent that she finishes reading my book. She's about halfway through it. She ordered it through either the website or Amazon. Anyways, and she does she does a lot of cool, fun stuff. She has a good time riding motorcycles everywhere like the rest of us. I also got to meet, through my friend Sonia, Miss AZ Passes, I got to meet her friend Robert English. That guy was way cool.
Yeah. That's a cool name.
I know, right? Well, he just did the Ride 1K in a day, and he won the contest and won my book. Right.
Great.
That Curtis Morgan has been having. So he was telling me when he was there that he just kind of met me in passing, and then he goes, "Oh, you're Bob Marshall, the guy who wrote and this and that." And
the Bob Marshall.
Right. Well, I don't know.
The like Roadrunner.
But, he was real excited. No, he's very creative photographer. I know at one point when I was coming home this morning, he was on the side of the road, and I didn't notice it was him until I saw someone who was standing up on the side of the road drop to the side of the road, and he's on his belly on the side of the road taking pictures, as I haul ass by.
So he probably got some good pictures that he's going to try to sell you or something.
I hope so. He got some good ones of me crashing too, he was telling me. So he's a pretty talented guy, but obviously one hell of a rider, enjoys a 1K in a day, took the challenge, won the contest for the month, and he's got some cool stuff from our good friend Steve over at Speed Kings, as well as a copy of my book. So it was real nice to sit and chat with him and build a good, just a good relationship with like-minded people. I mean, that's really what it's all about. Swap some stories. He had a lot of fun. It was actually his birthday. So we had made this guy had made this funny little sand ramp, and we kind of out there on the beach. And so he's out there on the beach. People are out riding motorcycles on the beach, which is great. You can do that there. And at one point he laid down under the ramp while one guy jumped over him. He's like, "Best birthday present ever." Of course, there was another time he was taking a picture of my friend Juice and some of her girlfriends from Austin. And she said something like, "Oh, Robert, do you know Bob Marshall?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, no, blah, blah, blah." And I pushed him over while he was trying to take pictures into the sand. So needless to say, that in the next few minutes, they said, "Hey, Bob, take a picture of us with my camera." And he pushed me over. So like, I deserve that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was, simple, good fun. There's a lot of stuff that went down, though, that I won't be talking about. It's okay to leave stuff in old Mexico. I'm okay with that.
All right.
A lot of good stuff that, wasn't, well, if you want to be part of the party, better be there. Happens every other year. So the next one's back in 2011. Mexico's a beautiful country. It's not much different there in Baja than it is here in California. Culture's different. There's a bit more trash everywhere. They don't have the public works like we have. The streets are shit. The roads are shit. But, you have a good time.
It's a good time. And you met a lot of fans. And I think that's really cool that the book and the podcast are touching a lot of people and getting more people interested in motorcycles. And so it must be really cool to meet some people who have been touched and blessed by American Roadrunner and who are following and listening now. So that's
if
awesome.
I could get more people excited, and this is always my big push, how to get people excited about sharing their stories. And that's the benefit of the website, is that, you can submit a story and I'm happy to edit it, whether it's 200 or 2,000 words, and we'll get it on the website.
Now, not a story like Jack and Jill. It's got to involve motorcycles.
If it involves motorcycles,
don't leave that out.
Maybe some squirrely women, maybe some squirrely men. If you are a woman riding, I don't know. Whatever. I think so often than not, people think that writing is art. Okay, sure, it's art, but for me, writing, sitting down to write, is something I do every day, and it's no different than when I sit down and twiddle with my motorcycle, or sit down and, clunk out some cool stuff on my mandolin. It's something I do very passively. Maybe I do it for half an hour a day, hour a day. I wrote some cool stuff on my phone when I was down there. I did not bring a typewriter with me and be very proud, although I don't think a typewriter would have survived the roads. I mean, even everything came loose on my bike, and we were riding back today, and we were right before Bob Hope Drive on the 10, and the wind was hellacious. And I'm going to back that up. I ran out of gas just south of Mexicali, and we had filled up when we got there, and I putted around quite a bit. And I thought, well, I should be able to make it this 130 miles, back to Mexicali before I need fuel. And I ran out, and at that point, we were all in a group, with Rich Silva and his wife Scoops, my friend Angel, Miss Lilac, she was there, our friend Sandra, she was there, so we're all in this group, and all of a sudden I ran out of gas, and I was in front of them, and I take the whole bike, and I'm on reserve already, so I throw the whole bike down to my left, because the petcock's on the left. So that way, all the fuel, any last ounce of fuel that's in the tank gets thrown in there. So I'm hanging on. That'd be my right side bar I'm hanging on to, and I just got the whole back. And they all start passing me because I'm slowing down because the bike's just chugging on 2 or 3 cylinders. And they're all looking at me like, what the hell is Bob doing? Like, what? And I finally ran out of gas, so I had to pull over. Luckily, I always carry, an extra 14 ounces in a water jug container of fuel. So I poured that in and went maybe another 2 or 3 miles, and there was a gas station. So that worked out pretty well. Pumped some gas and got us back over the border. And then today I'm just shy of Bob Hope Drive, and I go to pull myself forward on the bars just a little, and the right bar is like in my hand, loose as
the
can
right
be.
handlebar.
Yeah.
What?
So
wait, is the brake or the throttle on?
The brake and the front brake and throttles on the right.
So how does that even work then?
So it's completely loose and jiggling, and all I can grab onto is the left. So I quickly jump off the highway, and Annette's behind me, and I pull into a Starbucks parking lot. That's all I could find. And she goes, "So you want coffee or what?" And I hit this handlebar that's barely hanging on, and it's just flopping like, I go, this is a problem. So it didn't completely detach.
Right.
My bars have a few small crossbars that help hold them. Obviously those broke, and the point at the bottom where it attaches to the tree there, somehow that busted too. So, but if I pushed it forward, it was where it was supposed to be. So I took a little piece of rope that I have that I carry.
I was gonna say, what'd you do? Rubber bands, bubble gum, a branch
Hockey
of a
stick
Joshua
tape.
tree.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like just rig it all together.
Well, so that's what I had to come up with. So I had my backpack that had, I think it had one of my books and then 2 or 3 Louis L'Amours. You know how I travel. And so that's jammed up there anyway. So I just jammed it to the right against the bar. I pushed the bar forward against that, and I tied this rope at the top of the bar, and then I ran it down my spare fuel cell to the bottom of the tree and just gave it a nice trucker's notch. Made it super tight, and so now it's only kind of loose. So the problem is, naturally, when we ride motorcycles, your right hand's usually your dominant. That's where the throttle is, where the brake. I mean, I rarely have my left hand on the bars. My left hand's for my coffee, for my food, for my snacks, for my cigarettes, whatever. That was no longer the case. So I had to tell my brain not to use my right hand, even though that's what I'm used to using. So I would still throttle and brake, well, mostly throttle. I would throttle up, go through the clutching, but I had to put all my weight and balance the bike with my left hand. And you do that for 20 minutes coming through the windstorm that we came through on the 10 there in Whitewater. I mean, it's just hellacious. So I learned to sit way forward, and I would grab the top of the bar with my left hand and then put my left elbow actually on the grip. And so that's how I was able to, I had to use my whole left arm
Your whole
from
Dutch
my
rudder
hand
arm.
to the what?
Your whole Dutch rudder arm.
What does that even mean?
If you don't know what a Dutch rudder is.
No.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that.
Inside joke, Dutch rudder.
That is nothing inside.
Well, it's your strong arm, your Dutch rudder arm.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I heard this. Yeah, that's hilarious. You're hilarious, Brian.
Folks, if you don't know what a Dutch rudder is, ask Bob. He'll show you.
He has no idea. No idea. So it got a little squirrely and a little dangerous. It was hard to get on and off the freeway because I couldn't. I had to, pull the bike mostly with my butt cheeks. Is how I leaned on the bike. I would just prop my seat a little to the left, a little to the right, because all I had was my left. I was just
adjust
totally
that saddle
missing.
rag.
Exactly. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it was a little scary, especially coming through the wind, man. That wind just throws that rigid left and right. And, beat me up a bit. That's fine. It's just a totally different concept of only use your left arm for everything. Do not rely on your right arm for anything.
Yeah.
And usually it's the exact opposite on a motorcycle. But I figured it out and got home, and Annette just kind of cruised behind me and watched me.
You don't realize how important a part of your motorcycle is until
Till
you
it's
lose
gone.
It kind of reminds me of my first car I had. It was a 1991 Nissan Sentra, and it was manual transmission. I learned on manual, and man, that thing, I kept on beating it up, and I finally decided I'm only gonna buy gas and oil to keep it going. And as it started falling apart, I was like, whatever, I don't care. Well, you don't realize how important a back seat or the seat being able to adjust. You don't realize how important that is until it's stuck all the way back and you can't reach the clutch to shift, and you're just like leaning forward, basically I was holding on to the steering wheel like it was handlebars, and I'm hovering over the seat just so I can shift. Nice. So yeah, it's one of those things you don't realize how important it is until you lose it.
Yeah, and there's not much, and I reckon other people would have towed the bike home at that point, but you adapt and you figure it out, and you're used to being on the road, so it's not a big deal. So I just had to adapt, and it was a little scary. The big scene was like making hard right or left turns.
Yeah.
Those were nearly impossible, especially trying to get up to speed, because I'm trying to balance the bike with my left hand while I'm busy clutching, and that was so I had to use a few fingers to hang on to the handlebar, or hand grip as it were, and then the other few fingers to clutch. Well, that KZ's got a real heavy clutch. That was always a downfall on those models. So yeah, it got a little exciting for a minute, but you adapt, and here I made it home.
Yeah.
And I'll weld back up those bars, and they'll be golden. I think I got to see if they're a little too rusty. I might just get a new set, but I've had that set of bars on there for 6 or 7 years. I reckon it was all that track racing I was doing down at EDR. I tell you, my friends are real smart. They're like, we're not doing that. We still got to get back to Colorado, New Mexico, or Arizona. We got to get back home on our bikes. Why would we race them on the track? And Bob, you're a little crazy. I said, well, I got all you here. If anything breaks, we're going to figure it out, guys. They're like, oh, yeah, sure, we can fix anything. Yeah, we'll figure it out. So I didn't mind too much. Like I said, I didn't even qualify. I mean, I just ate crap twice, but boy, I had a good time.
So are you going to put different handlebars on the motorcycle now, like some of the really tall ones, or are you just going to fix the ones you got?
Yeah, no, I really like those.
Yeah, they won't break again.
They're terrible for off-road or dirt racing, track. They're terrible for that.
Don't ever do that,
Don't
folks.
ever do that.
Don't be like Bob.
These lean back bars, yeah. But no, I really enjoy those bars. I scored them from the swap meet for like $20 back in the day. And I think I had to weld on them then, but I had to weld. I was thinking about it. I had to weld on the left side, and the right side's what broke. So I'm hoping they're repairable. It's just a bunch of metal. It's not a big deal to weld it back together. As long as there's not too much rust, we'll be golden.
You got to trust your own work.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that was always a big thing when I built that bike. Are the welds going to hold that I put in? Because that was the first bike frame I ever welded on. But I tell you, we just replaced that engine, and that's a nice thing about the way you replace the engines in those bikes is the bike has 3 bars going across the top. There's a main backbone, and then these 2 other bars that I don't even know why they're there. Jer and I came up with the theory that they're there because you're not able to put Harley gas tanks on the Japanese bikes. I thought that was really ingenious, but the answer is you got to cut one of those bars out to get the engine out. So you cut one of the bars out, you turn the bike sideways, you pick the bike up, and the engine is left on the ground. You do the exact opposite to put a new engine in. So me and my little dude, spent a weekend, cut that donor engine out of another bike, and then cut the engine out of that bike and swap the engines. And the engine weighs, 200. Jared and I were talking about it. I refer a lot to Jared. I give him a call. Hey, how much do you think my KZ1000 engine weighs? And his answer will be, well, with oil or without? So I think we figured on 225 pounds or something. So it's not something you can just, pick up and lug around off the ground. Maybe if it was sitting on a table, you could pick it up and move it a few feet. Move it from table to table would probably be all you got. A Harley engine's only 100 pounds, so those are real easy to lug around as needed. But when you got the engine and transmission in one, like you do on a KZ1000, you just lay it on the ground, and then you put the 200-pound bike frame and wheels on top of the engine because it's lighter. And while it was upside down, me and my dude remeasured everything and checked all my welds, and they're still golden. I mean, I'm pretty fortunate. So
very cool. And that is Bob's bike maintenance tip of the week.
Yes, double check all your welds, especially when they're on frames. Maybe after Mexico, I should probably check it all now. I mean, you know, if a frame weld broke, the bike would tell me right away, I'm sure. But I'm always triple checking everything. It's real nice to, you know, have everything in black paint, so that way if any metal does show through, I'll see it. But you know, if you slug everything and do it right the first time, it works out real good. So just goes to show you, do it right the first time, whatever that may take.
Yeah.
Get her done.
The artwork of American Roadrunner can be found by The Bow Monster. That's The Bow Monster on Instagram. Also check out www.bomonster.com, The Bow Monster. So I was listening to the radio the other day, and good old K-Rock in the morning, and they were talking about how there's a couple of people that were riding a motorcycle, and I guess they found him. Unfortunately, they found him dead in a ditch, and they couldn't figure out what happened to him because the motorcycle looked fine, but here they were, like they were in an accident, and you know there was no brake marks. And I guess they also found a dead vulture along with these two people. And what the traffic scene investigators figured out was these two people on the motorcycle were driving, and a vulture came and took them out, hit them in the head, and they crashed, and they all died. And, you know, part of me was kind of laughing, like this vulture was really hungry and was just trying to make something happen. Wasn't going to wait for something dead to scavenge. He was like going after these people, but it killed the vulture too. So I guess my question is, have you ever been injured by hitting an animal or something while flying on your motorcycle?
Well, I don't think... You know what? Coming home today, a bee flew in my helmet.
That's just right. As dangerous as a vulture.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. That's happened a few times. But this bee, it skidded off on my way there. We hit some really big bugs, and one of them I saw. I mean, it hit the top of my helmet and just splat. The whole top of my helmet is splattered in this bug's gut. This bug had to be the size of my thumb because I saw
it's a big bug, if you know Bob's thumb.
Well, and and the funny part is that another one hit me a few minutes later, and it hit me right above my goggles, between my goggle and my helmet. That's where everything hits me. I don't know why. So then today, cruising home, this bee jumped off my forehead and hid and slid into my helmet. I thought it was just a fly first, but I felt it. Mm-hmm. And then I felt something buzzing on my ear, you know, and I thought, well, maybe this is just psychological. This can't be. So I'm trying to reach in my helmet, and I'm banging on my helmet and whatever, thinking, oh, there must be a fly. Maybe I'll smush it and kill it. And sure enough, at the next stop, I pull my helmet off. This bee falls out, you know, of my right ear. I was just like, wow. But I remember a few years ago, I was coming back from Austin. I was on my Goldwing. The sun was just setting, or had just set. So it's pretty dark. There's still a little light in the sky, and it's just gorgeous. And I'm sure I was that side of El Paso, maybe this side. And this monster owl, I mean, it looked like as big as an eagle. That's all I can assume it to be. It came flying out right in front of me, got just enough air that I don't know if it was its tail or its wing, because at this point I was slamming on the brakes, screaming, oh shit, in this half a second. But it nicked the top of my windshield on the Goldwing and then the top of my helmet. You know, if anything touches your helmet, it's amplified 10,000-fold. But this rattled my teeth. I mean, I was very lucky my tongue was not in the way, because my whole jaw just went, you know, and and then you realize you're still upright, you're still going, you're chugging along in fifth now because you've slowed down. So I had to downshift. There were no other cars around, luckily, but there's always stuff flying in the air.
Whoever says owls are wise are full of shit.
Mm-hmm. I think it was an owl. Might have been a vulture, but it looked like an owl.
Could have been a sugar glider. Who knows?
It was huge. I mean, it was the size of this dining room table.
Dang.
It was, that is AKA our studio table, also known as my grandmother's dining room set, but
right.
That I happen to have in my house. But yeah, it was gigantic. So it's going to happen, and hopefully it doesn't throw you out of control. You just got to do your best to focus on moving forward. You can't focus on the emergency event of... And I remember thinking this owl's gonna get enough air. Like, why would a big old bird hit me? But
Yeah.
no, it absolutely can happen. I've had friends, who have hit deer. My good friend Ray, who cruised down with me. I'll tell you about Ray Watson. He's got a blog, actually, Ray Watson blog, and he's got great old photos of the Stampede and all the adventures he's ridden, and he rode a ton of them until, about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. But him and his wife were cruising along on his Road Glide, and he says the last thing he remembers was seeing a deer out of the corner of his eye. He woke up a week later in an emergency room, totaled the bike. His wife had a lot of issue with her leg. She's had a few surgeries. Boy, the picture of him on his blog is just, I mean, wow. So it can happen.
Yeah, deer cause a lot of damage and kill a lot of people in cars.
Our good friend Velarde, I mean, his motorcycle's called the Deer Slayer for a reason.
Really?
He's ridden through 2 deer with it and a car that we know of. So, they're out there and you got to be careful. Obviously, the more north you go in the country, the deer get bigger.
Oh, yeah. You go to Alaska, you got to look out for moose, and those things are as big as a house.
Oh, yeah. They're gigantic. Even coming back through the Dakotas, though, that trip I took last summer, I was up on the east side of the Dakotas, Minnesota, Sturgis. Yeah, I had a small deer come out in front of me when the sun was setting, and I slammed on the brakes, and it stayed right in the road, right in front of me.
Literally a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
That's
no, it didn't
from.
see my headlights.
Oh, it didn't.
And so I hit the horn, and it still didn't move. And it was number 2. Anytime you see one deer walking in the road in front of you, there's going to be 2 or 3 following it.
Right.
Usually just 2. They travel in packs of, 3 or 4. But this deer just was sitting there, so I had to move the motorcycle forward and bump the deer and knock it off its hind legs to get it to move out of the way. So it kind of startled and went, oh, I should move. And I could barely see this thing with the way the color of the deer and the sunset. And then another one was following it, ran in front of me. 2 seconds later, it's deer everywhere.
Did they have antlers? Were these like deer or elk?
No. These were little baby deer, actually. They're quite small for the Dakotas. It kind of looked like Texas deer.
Well, I think what it is baby deer have, instead of a fight or flight, they have a freeze response. And that's what they do. They just freeze.
I had to bump this sucker to get out of the road. Get out of my way.
Get out of my way, Bambi.
You can move. I cannot move. Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. Scared the crap out of me regardless.
I could have come up on some good venison if you took it out.
I reckon, but I'm not. Then I'd be on the side of the road duct taping my motorcycle back together. Just kidding. I only use hockey stick tape. I don't like duct tape. But I carry it just in case. I used it to fashion the number plate to my tank this weekend. So.
And you were number 27, right?
Oh, yeah. They were kind enough to... I walked up and it was number 26 was on the table. I said, well, could I have number 27 instead? Oh, sure. Here you go. Cool. Lucky number 27. It worked out well.
Yeah. It
wasn't lucky for me, but hey.
No. Is that a number that you like, 27?
Yeah, our bait local that I get to serve in the presidency of is local 27 here in Riverside. But yeah, we got many different local numbers throughout the state of California, and here in Riverside, we're just blessed with lucky number 27. So
well, I'm glad you said that, and not something like, "Oh, all my favorite rock stars died at the age of 27, so I like the
I never
number
thought
27."
I remember reading that one. Yeah.
Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Amy Winehouse.
Yeah,
a bait local 27. That's why it's 27, folks.
Well, 27 was a good one for me too. I was probably 350 pounds when I was 27 years old. I remember, and I had to change it. For those of you who have met me, I'm still a pretty big dude. I'm down to 260 now, but yeah, I've lost almost 100 pounds. I've been down as low as 230, but...
So back then you were Robert and you shrunk down to Bob.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, no, I really had to make a life choice and just stop eating so much. Cause, boy,
well,
I love food.
You look great.
I love food. Yeah, it took a few years, but I got to get back on it. I'm just... you get big and you keep going. So
yeah,
I ran cross country in high school, and I could eat anything then.
I would have never thought you were the type to do that. You don't look like somebody who would run. I mean, like you just look like somebody who would be into automotive maintenance in school and riding motorcycles all the time.
Yeah, well, I took
not
4 years.
athletics.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed running, and I reckon it's not much different on my motorcycle. You just keep going all day long and have a good time with it.
You just like traveling.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, no, I like traveling. Yeah, no, running cross country in high school was just a real treat. And there were 7 guys on the varsity team. I was the 7th spot, so I was I'd do my best to keep up with the varsity guys. Anyways, I had a great time.
When you raced other schools, you came in 27th place.
That's right. If I was lucky. No, and that cross country is cool because you run 3 miles in a race, and then they would time each of your miles. Supposedly, It was kind of hard to do back then but maybe it's easier now. But cross country running's always been exciting. Yeah, nowadays I don't. If you see me running, there might be someone chasing me with a gun, so call the police. I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah, it's not something I do so much anymore, but it's nice to run fast and far on the motorcycle.
Cool. Hey, in other news, I hear there is a magazine article out about American Roadrunner. Tell me about it.
This month's Cycle Source, we got the magazine article out.
What month is it?
This would be the month of... You're making me put my glasses on, aren't you? Yeah, this would be volume 23, issue 2, May of 19. Find it at your newsstands for $5.99. Cycle Source, a grassroots motorcycle publication. And I'll tell you what, this was written by our compadre, Mr. Travelin' Chopper Charlie. I think it's on page 56. Now I'm going to read it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not he just gives us some good praise and the exciting things that I've gotten to do on scoots, and some exciting things he's gotten to do on scoots, and always good to see one's name in print. Yeah. So that was really cool. And I've been in a few magazines. My favorite one was
Hustler.
That would have been cool.
Nice centerfold.
Not that magazine. My favorite one was a few years ago. The Horseback Street Chopper magazine reached out to me on some pictures that I put up of my pops from back in the day on his 59 Pan, and they said, "Oh, do you have a few more of those? Maybe we could do a article on it." And that article turned out bitching because it was just about him and the awesomeness that he did back in the day, and the awesomeness he was doing at that day, being part of the Flying Marshal racing team and getting us out land speed racing. So that's my favorite article that I got to be in, and I got to write that actually, and I was kind of surprised they didn't really edit it from what I wrote. So
that's cool. Do you remember what? I know you know the magazine, of course, but do you remember what volume?
No. I really don't.
We'll have to check that out so that people can get that. It's a collector's item now.
It's probably, the man's dead, so.
Well, you aren't. The author's not dead. But
I'm not dead. My son isn't either. Yeah, there's this great picture of us out on the Playa of El Mirage. And I think, I'm sitting on the race bike that we put together. My Yamaha 650 that I like to land speed race. And there's my little dude, and he's tiny. I mean, he had to be 7 years old, and his shirt's like way too big on him. It's cute as a button, and my pops is there. So, but
three generations of flying marshals.
Exactly.
The flying marshal team. It almost sounds like you guys are a trapeze act.
That unfortunately sometimes we are, and that's where that actual name came from my son. He was riding in his mom's car once behind me when I was riding my motorcycle. I was on my rigid, and you just get comfortable, and my arms flap sometimes. So that's what that's where it came. He had to be 3 or 4 years old.
That's
it
where
was
it
just
came
cute
from?
as can be. Yeah, that's where Flying Marshal came from. Came from my little dude.
Your arm flaps.
Mm-hmm.
What an angel.
Yeah, God bless him. But yeah, you got to loosen up on a rigid, otherwise it'll just beat you to death. If you're trying to, you got to there's going to be air between you and the machine sometimes. You just got to deal with it, and it's all good.
It's a good way to limit the size of your family, because you will definitely put your family jewels out of commission.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. It's no different than riding a BMX bike as a kid. You just learn when to stand up, learn when to sit down. So same as on a rigid motorcycle. It's not going to kill you. Hasn't killed me yet. or my family jewels, from what I understand. So.
Yeah, you're still going strong.
Every now and then. Not bad. Having a good time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We got it. I'm going to say it just to hold them to it, but Danger Dan's supposed to be hitting us up here Wednesday. He's going to be hanging out in Riverside. So
Danger Dan in the house.
I know, right? That'll be exciting.
Now
so we'll be doing some. I know, he better.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people are going to hear this. They're going to think, Danger Dan didn't make it.
Danger Dan was riding too dangerous and didn't make it.
Yeah, well, he's going to make it. He was the one who kicked butt on the track there down in San Felipe. He was killing it, man.
I want to hear his stories, all the stories that you didn't tell.
Well, he may not tell you all of them, and that's okay. So it's Mexico. If you want to see what happened, you just got to show up. Jump on your scoot, pack a tent, maybe some Imodium AD, and cruise on down. I love it because Biltwell puts all this together, and they handed out a great little itinerary of cool stuff that they had planned. And the very last page, and it was great. It was all on Topset. I think a typewriter put it out. But the very last page was frequently asked questions of the El Diablo Run. And I think the last statement was, "It hurts when I pee and someone pooped my sleeping bag. What am I doing wrong?" And the statement was, "Well, you're not doing anything wrong. Welcome to Old Mexico. Sounds like you're doing it right." You know, so, it's going to happen. But no. EDR 2019, it was a good one. Glad for any of my friends who are out there I got to say hi to, hang out with, share a cup of coffee with, even a beer. Boy, I think I had like 3 beers all weekend. I was letting loose.
Whoa.
Hanging out on the beach, drinking Dos Equis. Mostly I'd just take a swig or two off a net, so it's kind of easier that way. But, you know, everything you want is right there, and everything's pretty damn affordable. So, cool. And everything's negotiable, too. You know, all the prices are negotiable. So, it's a different way of life down there.
It's a lost art, negotiating or bartering.
Oh,
Americans
it really
don't know how to
is.
do it much.
No, we don't. And we don't.
You should always ask for a deal.
I think so, because they're happy to hand it out. But, you know, stuff's pretty legitimately affordable anyway. Some of the stuff wasn't. You know, some of the clothing wasn't, or some of the, you know, there was a few things Annette was walking around looking for. Yes, I spent a few hours Saturday morning shopping downtown with Annette. I was doing my best. We had a good time. It was a good walk after breakfast. But, you know, yeah, we had a really good time, man. San Felipe, always one of my favorite places in Mexico. Cool. A lot better than Tijuana, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, it looks like we're going to wrap things up. Again, I just want to say the podcast, this is about the attainability of adventure via motorcycle riding and the decommodification of story via the website. So please give us your story, and we will post it, and we will make something of it. We want to hear your stories of adventure on your two-wheeled machines.
This is me sharing my stories. I love hearing other people's stories. As usual, we are blessed by the music here on this show by Meek. From their album Red Sprite Lightning, the song is Here We Are. That's Meek.